Hello, and welcome to episode number 183 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We're recording on November the 6th, 2022. My name's Eric, host of the show, based in Southern Ontario, hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator. I know that one's shocking for everybody, and a computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
I'm Alan. I'm a safety trainer, first responder security expert, and overall safety nerd.
And I'm Jeff. I am based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario. Consider myself a part-time amateur prepper who's constantly trying to better himself.
I'm Pierre. I'm a tactical beard owner, t-shirt designer, government hater, and part-time prepper.
All right, if you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, you can buy some swag. We've got the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch available at prepperpodcast.ca. All the proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled. You're muted, Brad.
Damn it. And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. Also, we'd love to have your feedback, good or bad, or just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback at prepperpodcast.ca.
My feedback, Brad, is you should practice that more.
Yeah, No kidding. Maybe another drink or two will help.
Oh, geez. So we've got some unpracticed and squeezing content for you in this episode. We're going to start off with some recent news articles. Then we'll update you on what we've done for our personal preparedness. Then we're going to get into the main topic, hug a tree. And we're not talking about the activist type. So in the news, I figured this article would be appropriate for this evening's episode. Lost hiker located with the What 3 Words app. And this is from October the 4th out of Sault Ste. Marie. So it just goes to show you the use of that application. And we've talked about it a few times on the show already. But there's a real life scenario that it was used in to locate a lost hiker. And it appears that it worked well.
Good to hear.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it's for. I'm so glad to read about things like that. It makes me unbelievably happy.
Yeah.
And I've got one that's not going to make people happy. New Brunswick diesel prices have risen to over $3 a liter. On Saturday night alone, their diesel price went up 68.4 cents a liter. So right now, some of the stations in New Brunswick are at $3.07 a liter. There's been a lot of rumor. I haven't seen a lot of it, but that even up and down the east coast of the United States, that there's actually shortages of diesel fuel. So, buckle up. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see well over $2 a liter for gas in Ontario in the not too distant future.
Yikes. That's that's not good.
Well, I know Friday I fueled up in the afternoon. It was 239.9 east end of Ottawa. Good thing I don't pay for the fuel.
Yikes.
Yeah, there was one guy they interviewed, and he filled up his truck in New Brunswick. He has an 800-liter tank, so he said it was $2,400. The last time he gassed up, it was $1,600. So it was a $600 difference in fuel, and that was over a course of just 4 days.
Holy moly. That's that's not good.
Yeah, some of those tanks are pretty damn big on some of those trucks. I think you said 800 liters.
That's just going to drive the price of everything up, right? Everything comes by truck.
Every truck runs on diesel. What I was going to say is they're just going to pass the increase on to the consumer. So,
So here's a good one for you for transportation and trucks. I think, Pierre, I don't think you should be included in this because you might still remember the answer to this.
Yeah,
everything comes on a truck. There are only two things that I'm aware of that you can purchase in this world that do not come on a truck.
Hookers and blow.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It depends on where they're coming from, I guess.
And we just lost our PG rating. Yeah.
And I'll just check off the explicit rating for this episode already.
I try, guys. I try. I'm not gonna lie. I try, but I fail often.
Every
I had an
episode you come
argument.
out on, I just check the box off automatically. So
I had an
fine.
argument years ago with three guys in a restaurant that were pissed that there was a truck blocking the parking lot. I went over and explained to them that there are only two things that I'm aware of that don't come on a truck. I said, if you can figure them out, I'll pay for your meal. For you three guys having a meal, I'm eating alone. If you guys can't figure it out, you're paying for mine. I got a free meal. They asked me afterwards, what are the two things that don't come on a truck? Sex and real estate.
It wasn't entirely wrong.
You were not.
no.
I suppose one could come on a truck, but
Yeah.
It depends.
Wow. 5 minutes in and we're already in the gutter. You got a news article, Pierre?
Yeah. So, thankfully, apparently, we're gonna start saving a lot, at least for living in Ontario. You'll start seeing a little bit of a saving on your electrical. So,
Yeah.
yes, thank God the government came about and said we're gonna revamp the winter plan and everything for on peak, off peak. They're modifying it a little bit and giving you a little bit of a break. So they're going to raise prices on your cucumbers, but you'll also save a few cents on your thing. But it's kind of good to see that they're modifying a little bit. I mean, let's just keep getting them to start doing less and less, and I think it would go a lot better. But interesting article to read. It's got a bunch of stuff, and
Yeah, that's actually not something new. I'm not saying they do it all the time every winter, but
yeah,
I know last winter my bill went down a little bit for they dropped the price a little bit, and then of course, as soon as the warm weather started and they were thinking about air conditioners, it went up even higher than it was before. So you really didn't gain anything, but
yeah, and it goes in there that they have the application where you can get up to $1,000 paid off depending on your income and everything, which I'm sure is being used a little bit more now with the price of everything going up, and they're praising that they've helped so many people, and everything. But I mean, that $1,000, they're saying they've assisted 873 people in in a few months. But I'm like, let's say that's $1,000 each. That's $873,000. It's got to come
Yeah.
somewhere, right?
Hold
But,
on. Are you suggesting money doesn't grow on trees?
That's for
are
later.
you suggesting the government doesn't just print money? I mean, if they print it, why do I have to pay income tax?
Oh,
We are not starting this conversation tonight. That's huge. We are not.
I just wanted to see who would take the bait.
wrong
No,
night, guys.
I'm-
Wrong night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
That's
Tune in
tomorrow
Monday.
conversation.
Yeah.
that is tomorrow. But yeah, just to see, hey, I mean, obviously, if you're on electric heating and everything, you do get a bit of a break. It is just that time of year, but good to see that. See if the rates have fluctuated since last year and everything, and you can hopefully plan a little bit better. I mean,
no.
Depends if your kids are stuck at home because schools are on strike. That you might be using heat on peak a little bit more than normal, but it is what it is.
You're just
Yeah,
trying to
but-
start a rant tonight, aren't you?
But like you said earlier, Pierre, do we get their tax money back because the kids aren't in school this week because the teachers
That's
strike?
tomorrow. See, that wasn't me. That was him.
Monday, wrong CPP.
Monday.
Oh, crap. Yeah, okay. Tomorrow. Put that on the calendar. Tomorrow.
Yes,
All
but
right.
yeah, that's all I got.
All right, let's bring it back around to the preparedness CPP and talk about what we've done lately for preps.
Work.
Mm-hmm.
That was Monday and Tuesday. And then work again. Work. A little bit of yard cleanup yesterday. And then tomorrow's work again.
Oh, there you go.
That's it.
It seems to be the common theme. I did yard work as well and did some food prep.
Well, this is going to be real shocking. Yard work here as well. So got the backyard almost done. The fence is built now, so that's
Nice.
good, and
Nice.
it's all together, and it's good to go. We'll find out how it lasts for the winter, but so far it looks like a fence. It's level, and yeah. Got out with Jeff and did a quick Parks on the Air activation. So we got 75 contacts in the log book, actually pretty much all of them from US, a couple of Canadian stations in there as well. And just some more Morse code practice, because why not add that to the pile of things to learn?
Beep, 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 beep,
Yep.
beep, beep, beep.
Now I really have to hit the explicit button. I can't believe you'd say that.
I did some fuel rotation, did a little bit of vehicle maintenance, getting the homestead button down for winter. So doing a little bit and doing the yard work. Topped up the pantry cupboard a little bit this weekend. Changed the clocks, right? The time changed this weekend. So I took that opportunity to check my smoke alarms and replace the batteries, check my CO alarms, replace the batteries.
No.
Why is
Does
that
that-
so important?
Does that count?
Because CO is
it does
bad,
count,
Pierre.
There you
CO
go.
real bad.
Does it count as a prep for you though?
Yes,
That's
always.
just your daily. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
if Ian can claim CGN deals as part of his prep, then I can claim CO. Checking my CO.
Aren't you
Touche.
one and the same, though? You're one and the same. Come on. I was just wondering if that counted towards the clock for mentioning CO.
I think so.
No, but that's actually not a bad way of programming. It's an easy way to remember when you've changed them.
It's also the time I go around and I spray all my locks with lubricant and give them a little tune up every year so that I know my doors are going to close properly and nothing dries out. Just like your engine, you've got inside your locks is metal on metal rubbing, and with a little bit of lubricant, it doesn't last all that long. So
Oh, fair enough.
I use a silicone-based lubricant. Please avoid WD-40.
Yeah, piss.
I like the 3-in-1 brand silicone, but I've also used Jigaloo pretty effectively.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's everything for me.
We got some food prep, a little bit of a food stock got in the house, organized, packaged, put away from the grocery store. Had a busy work week and a busy weekend as well with a trip that we took for Celebration of Life, so we didn't get too much, but still working on the camper because, well, it's huge and everything, but it's almost ready to get parked there. We're parking it this week, hopefully. Fingers crossed the weather stays the way it does, and then that'll be ready for winter storage for the big celebration next year.
Countdown's
How many
on.
days?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. All right. With that, how about we move into the main topic?
I was going to have a co-presenter here, but he bailed on us at the last minute. So
Is his
today
name
we're
Ian?
yeah, exactly. No, Ian didn't bail at the last minute. He bailed like a month ago.
This is fair enough. Yeah.
So we're talking today about Hug-A-Tree and Survive. So Hug-A-Tree is the kind of entry level, kind of geared towards kids version of the Adventure Smart program. And the Adventure Smart program is, it was started back in, I want to say the early 80s. There's a man tracker by the name of Ab Taylor. He's a border patrol. Well, he's passed now, but he was border patrol down in the southern U.S. And a lot of what he did was finding lost people. And as a result, he kind of came up with a program that would help make finding people easier. That's broken out into a lot of kind of more adventure specific things, but the general thing is Hug-A-Tree and Survive. And the idea behind that is if you are lost, and especially with kids, we find when they get lost, they tend to wander or they panic and they try and go back the way they came. And of course, they're never going in the right direction. It makes them much harder to find. Whereas if you just stay put and let people come to you, then things are going to go better for you. And all of the Adventure Smart programs, whether it's Hug-A-Tree or whether it's the Canoe Smart or the Camp Smart or the Hike Smart or whatever, all of those programs are based on the 3 T's. So we run everything based on the 3 T's, which is first T is training. So know how to do what you're going to do. So if you are going to go canoeing or camping or kayaking or hiking or hunting, whatever, get some training and be knowledgeable in the tasks that you have to accomplish for that adventure that you're going on. The second T is trip planning. Know where you're going, where you're going to go, what you're going to do. This includes filing a trip plan with someone else. So if you're going to be out in the woods and you're going to follow a specific route, ideally you will have, or cover a specific area, maybe if you're hunting, then somebody knows where you are, at least approximately, or where you should be. And that gives a search team the ability, that gives them some place to start when the time comes to go find you. This is a great time to make sure that you have your What 3 Words app up on your phones. We talked about that earlier, and I think we had an email about it last week. So What 3 Words will give you within, 3 square meters, will broadcast your geographic location anywhere in the world. This is another great tool to use is CalTopo. So if you're using CalTopo, it's another great app. I think we've talked about it before on previous episodes, on some wayfinding episodes. But with CalTopo, I can have my app going on my phone, and if I've shared that trip with somebody, then they can actually see where I am. So as long as we're in cell phone range, you can see at least, again, within a few meters where I am. And it's a highly effective tool. We use the SAR Topo version in training on a regular basis, and it gives us the ability to see kind of where everybody on the team is and what their progress is. And even if you lose contact, right, even if you lose your cell signal drops, at least again an approximate direction of travel. The last point seen. It helps advance the search rather well. So making sure that you have a good trip plan and a well-organized plan. As if you don't know where you're going, then you're never going to get there, and you're more likely to get lost and turn around in the woods. And then the third T is taking the essentials. This is the cool stuff. Planning for your trip as well as the emergencies that could happen, right? So a couple of episodes we talked about hunting, and so making sure that you have all the things you need for your hunting trip is great, but also planning to spend a night in the woods. Always plan to spend a night in the woods. If you're going out and you're going to be off-road, expect to get lost and expect to have to be out there for a little while. Right now here in Southern Ontario, it's 20 degrees and maybe it's a little bit windy, but the sun's going to come out tomorrow and it's not that bad. So what I would take for this would be, maybe an emergency blanket, maybe an extra layer of clothes, some food, some water, always a whistle so you can whistle for help. Those little basics, something to start fire with, right? And we've talked about those kits on a consistent basis. But I'm sure we're going to dive into a little bit deeper here because we all love talking about kit. But the worse the weather gets, the rougher the terrain gets, the harder it snows, whatever, then you're going to have to change. You're going to have to change what those essentials are. Also, if you're planning to be somewhere where it's going to take 3 or 4 days for somebody to either find you or to get to you, once they discover you're missing, to know whether you're missing, and then to get to you once they discover you're missing, right? If it's going to take some time for that, then you'll want to have a different type of kit set up. So I would never consider leaving my vehicle and going off road without at least my fanny pack that has a first aid kit in it and has at least 3 ways to start fires, and a space blanket and a whistle and something to keep me warm and dry, and probably a deck of cards. Because one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is, like, once you've got yourself set up for the night, it's really tough to sleep in the woods. Propped up against a tree in a really difficult austere terrain, and you're lost and you're unhappy. Time goes by a little bit faster if you've got something to do.
The deck of cards is great for playing solitaire, because if you're messing up, somebody's going to show up behind you and tell you what you missed.
Exactly. 100%, right. The other thing to do, another good plan, is if you are lost in the woods, if you get turned around, you're not sure where you are, just start talking about politics, and someone will come up and correct you.
There you go. That's another.
But all of those things, right? Like we're expecting. So somebody has to know that you're missing. Yep. If somebody doesn't know that you're missing, then they're not going to come looking for you. If nobody's coming to look for you, then it doesn't matter how long you're out there. you're not gonna be rescued. So if somebody knows you're missing because you have a trip plan and you had a plan to contact them, you miss a call in, you miss 2 call-ins, whatever your plan is, then somebody sends up the flares and says, we need to call, we need to get this get a rescue plan together. Right? If nobody knows that you're out there or where you are, then it becomes much harder to find you. So that is a really important thing, right? Tell somebody where you're going, right?
Yeah.
I intend to get to this point. I'm going to take this, I intend to take this trail. We're going to take this point and then I'm going to turn around here and come back. And I expect this to take 4 hours. I expect this to take 3 days. I expect this to take a week, whatever. And we can check in at whatever waypoints. And if I miss a check-in, then at least at some point approximately where I should be. And that gives us a lot to work on, a lot to work with, right? As a search and rescue team. So that's important. And then expect, I'm going to be out here in the night. I think I've talked about this before, right? I got separated from my scout troop when I was 10 years old, and it was because my scout leader, like my scoutmaster, was he was a survival instructor with the military, right? He made sure that we had our gear. It was an uncomfortable night, but it was just, I knew that somebody was coming for me in the morning, and as a result, I was okay. I was a little chilly, but I wasn't dehydrated. I wasn't terribly hungry. I was uncomfortable. The difference between I'm a little bit uncomfortable and I'm in a desperate situation is the stuff you have on your back. So you gear that to your terrain, and off you, and you're ready to go, right? Then go have your adventure and go do your fun thing, but make sure that do it in a way that you've got a backup if somebody's if something goes wrong, because something's gonna go wrong at some point. If there wasn't, then we wouldn't have search and rescue teams, and we wouldn't have helicopters, and we wouldn't have tracking dogs, and right,
Murphy's Law wouldn't
Yeah,
apply.
exactly.
yeah, right. We know that this is going to happen, right? Even the best intentions out there doesn't they don't take into account a sudden weather shift, right? Like if you're out in the mountains, the weather can come in and change on you in minutes, right? I mean, if you're in southern Ontario, it's usually not as extreme, but it's still inconvenient. But that can be like, oh, I'm on kind of an open edge. All of a sudden, I found a muddy spot. Now I'm down at the bottom, and I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to get back up. I don't have the means. But somebody knows approximately where I am, and I can call for help. Right?
Yep. I think it's a really good point you brought up about just telling people where you're going and where you're hoping to get to. I don't think a lot of people really get in the habit of doing that, right? They'll say, yeah, you know what, I'm heading out, I'm going for a walk, or I'm going for a hike, or I'm going for a canoe trip, or whatever, and then they just kind of cap it at that because they don't want to get into any more details. They don't feel it's necessary because, as far as they're concerned, they're coming back in an hour or two, right? But if you can make it a habit whenever you're going out to do something, even if it's something you continuously do, if you're going to take a quick change in it or you're going to do something different, just let somebody know who's stayed behind. I'm starting at point A. I anticipate showing up at point B or returning to point A within X amount of time. And here's the route I anticipate taking. That way somebody else knows. And it feels funny the first couple of times that you do it, because you think you're over telling people what you're doing and why do they care where I'm going and what route I'm taking and such. But if you get into one of those situations where all of a sudden, I'm stuck here or something's happened, you're going to be thankful you took those, 10, 15 seconds to explain a little bit more in depth where you anticipate going and where you anticipate showing up. It may feel silly, but at the end of the day, if you get back and you get to your location, that's 99% of the time what is going to happen. And yeah, it's, you didn't have to tell anybody at the end of the day, but that one time that you're out there, all of a sudden you're going to be thanking yourself because it gives, as Alan mentioned a few times, it gives first responders a spot to start looking, which just helps shorten down the amount of time it takes to actually find you. Because if not, it's already a needle in a haystack, but it's an even bigger haystack if you're not sure even where to start looking or what haystack to look in.
And I was going to say, if you're out there and you're going to a new area, or you're kind of, maybe you've been there but you're still unfamiliar with it, take a roll of flag tape with you. and flag the branches as you move. That way, if you do get turned around or something happens, if at worst case scenario, the first responders will find your vehicle, they'll see the flagged route, and then they'll just start following it, and hopefully it will lead them right to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bring lots of trail tape.
Yeah, be a good. Just be a good. Be a good citizen though, and like pick your trail tape up on the way back. Like, don't be don't be a dick. But but yes, absolutely right. Especially and make sure if you're going to flag your trail, then make sure that you can see the flag before you, right? Before you lose sight of it, that's where you're gonna tie your next flag, and then again, that means that I'm if the search and rescue team is coming to find you, they're probably within 50 meters of you by the time they lose your trail, right? So that's that's an excellent point, especially if you're not if you're not familiar with the area, right? And Denny makes kind of a similar point, right? He says his dad always told him to check the back trail, which means look behind you because it never looks the same going back. Absolutely true, right? So if you can pick a landmark, right, and if you're not sure because it all looks the same, that's a great place to have that trail tape. And then he actually made another point, right? If you're going to put a deck of cards in your kit, there are decks of cards out there that have survival tips and stuff on them. So that's fun too. Not a bad thing.
That's 2 for 1 right there.
Rapid survival. But if you can do that, check out Rapid Survival. If he doesn't have them yet, he will soon.
It's not something I carry, but it is a great idea, and I'm going to look into it. I'm making a note now because I like that. That's good. Like I said, it's kind of a 2 for 1. It's entertainment, but it also gives you some information because you might not be, thinking exactly straight when you realize, I'm lost. I'm spending the night out in the woods, and having something written down with some quick tips is actually a really good idea.
It's funny. I've had this little SAS survival guide. The 2x3 inch version that's about 2 inches thick. I've had that book since I was in grade 7, anyways. Right, so we're going back, getting close to 30 years, and like it still comes with me in my backpack every time I go out. Every time I go out in the woods, every time I go on a trail. I think I've memorized it by now. I used to read that cover to cover just for fun. But it's, and that's, every once in a while I'll crack it open and I'll find a skill and I'll practice with it. Because, you check your kit, right? It's one thing to have the knowledge. It's quite another thing to actually put those skills into use. But it's, that little book, it doesn't take up any space. It's about the size of a deck of cards. And it's just literally jam-packed with information that will make your day better if things go badly.
Yeah, and it's just
flagging tape. Use even a couple of different colors of flagging tape is not a bad idea. If you've got a GPS, mark your waypoints. Yep. If you have a spot, right, make sure that it's it's charged before you go. And then having those essentials, right? Have some water with you. Have a backup means to get more water, whether that's your Sawyer or your Life Straw. Or,
I was going to say, since Ian's not here, let's just say Life Straw.
Well, and it really doesn't matter. I mean, I know Ian despises Life Straws, but I think it's because I think it's because they're too big for his dainty hands. Whatever tool works for you, right? Exactly. Like my fire starting kit, right? I love it. It's a pill bottle that I jam packed with cotton balls covered in Vaseline, and I wrap the outside with about 30 feet of duct tape, and then I've got lighters, I've got matches, I've got flint, like ferro rods, because those are it gives me options. I've always got a little magnesium bar with steel. Never ever would I consider going out into the woods without 30 feet of duct tape and a couple of knives. But that's that kit is going to be unique to you and unique to your situation, right? There are places where ounces equal pounds, right? If you're in this, that's serious mountain climbing, right? There, you're paring down to the absolute minimum. But you still wouldn't find me without the ability to make a fire, unless I was going to be up above the tree line. At which point, I'm not going to carry fuel for a fire, but I still probably would have at least a lighter of matches on me.
Yeah, like you said, it all boils down to individual preference and depending on your environment, where you're going, and what you plan on doing during whatever trip it is you're going on. But yeah, carrying some basic stuff with you, no matter where you go, just makes sense. And it all gets back down to, well, pretty much every other episode that we've talked about, where we talk about testing your gear, making sure it works, and making sure you have a plan. It's kind of just boils down to that. And
I love my little twig stove. I've got a twig stove and a little kettle. I can boil water with it in a couple of minutes. It
Nice.
doesn't take it doesn't take a big fire to create warmth. I also, again, I wouldn't consider going out without without a tube of Dex4 tabs, right, like glucose tabs, just to give myself a little bit of energy, and hot chocolate, especially in the winter, like hot chocolate powder. Hot chocolate,
a little bit of peanut butter whiskey, and we're good to go.
Yeah, there you go. But I often teach in my first aid classes, right? Hot chocolate is kind of the perfect thing to help somebody who is in the early stages of hypothermia, because it not only adds warmth, so you're stopping the cold, but it also adds heat, or it also adds calories, which gives you more ability to shiver. So it gives you more ability to generate your own heat. So those are, it's kind of one of those perfect things. As much as we joke about adding the peanut butter whiskey to it, but you should, the caveat is you should absolutely avoid alcohol.
Yeah, of course.
It will mess with your body's ability to regulate temperature.
Yep.
And as we get into winter, right, there's still plenty of hiking days left in the year, and some of us don't stop over the winter. If you're snowmobiling, whatever. Keep the same rules in mind as we've talked about before, right? Clean, open, loose, and dry is your friend for clothing. Layers, and those space blankets are great for preventing heat loss. As long as you have some heat left in you, they're great. And then hot packs, like instant hot packs, are they're an absolute godsend. I keep, I have cases of them. I take them out when I go on searches. I take them when I take the kids to the hockey rink, because they're outside on the rink in the winter, like on the outdoor rink in the winter, and I'm standing on the edge and just being cold. Throw a couple of those in your armpits, and everything's gets a little bit better. Yep, everything gets a little bit better.
Another thing to add into your kit, because I know normally we talk about kind of mixing into a crowd and not drawing attention to yourself, but we want the complete opposite in a scenario like this, where you're trying to be found. Some form of a reflective vest. You can get ones that won't take up a lot of space and are pretty light. Something that just kind of makes you obviously there and stand out. Makes it easier for responders to find you as well. But I know we always talk about mixing in, so. Yeah, orange too. Something bright, some kind of bright, vibrant color that's going to just make you stand right out to somebody looking for you. Definitely something you want to have in your kit as well.
And one of the big challenges of being lost in the woods, right? You're going to make yourself a little shelter, right? You want to get yourself up off the ground, insulated from the ground. You want to keep yourself kind of contained, which is great for keeping you alive and keeping you warm. Really, really difficult for you to be found.
Yep.
So that's another excellent use for that orange flagging tape, right? You make your shelter. It is, you're hunkered down. You've got some insulation from the outside world. Throw as much tape around it as you can to make yourself visible. And if you hear voices, if you think somebody's nearby, start blowing that whistle.
Yep.
Right. The Fox 40 is kind of the gold
That'll
standard.
Get attention.
Gold standard in whistles, right? They're pretty. They're pretty readily available. They're cheap. Buy one that's in a nice bright color, so that when you drop it in the leaves, you can find it.
Yep.
Don't ask me how.
Don't just buy one, buy two.
Yep. 2 is 1, 1 is none.
Yep.
Yeah, or 27.
Yep.
That's
That's
one
can
place.
openers. That's can openers. Hold on.
So another thing, right? If you don't want to leave flagging tape, right? Because it's a little, it's a little obnoxious. I mean, you could just drop can openers like breadcrumbs along the trail.
I'll come find you right away.
Pick them up on the way
Because then
back.
Brad's gonna find you like instantly.
Yeah.
He's got a sniffer for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, in all seriousness, you would generally not put canned food into a bag, right? You generally would put canned food into a bag and not bring the can with you because it's lighter. But if I am boiling, if I don't have any other cooking vessel, then a tin can is actually probably not a bad thing to have with me. I can open
No,
the can, cook my food in it, and then just eat right out of it. So that's probably something to consider as well.
So we were 10 minutes and 57 seconds roughly for CO mentioning this episode, and we were about 34 minutes and 52 seconds in for can openers. Not bad, gentlemen. Not bad.
And the
Where's
one
Kyle
other-
when it percent?
I know, right?
and the one thing I was gonna just kind of mention, and we've talked about it, is taking that 15 seconds to tell somebody where you're going. Yeah, don't get complacent. Don't think, you know what, I've walked that trail 25 times. I'm not going to have a problem. I'm not going to. That's the time you're going to trip over something. You're going to hurt yourself. And you're going to be in a position where you can't extract yourself or get back out, and you're going to need somebody to help you. So,
Yep.
take that 15 seconds and make sure that somebody knows where you're going. And if you tell them that's where you're going, don't decide to, the joke of the day is squirrel and go that way and run off that way and get lost, right? Because now you're not where you told that person you were going.
Yep. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
I mean, we have a friend group, right, where we we have a rule that no matter where we're going, we tell each other, so that if you don't get there, if I don't hear from you, at least I know where to start looking. And if I know where you were and where you were going, then it should be a reasonably straight line between them to find you. Oh, hey, we're just going down to the local, conservation area for a hike. Even if it's a 50 square kilometer conservation area, right? That's a big area to search.
Yep.
But it's still bigger than the entirety of the province of Ontario.
Smaller.
Right?
Smaller. Yep.
Yes, still smaller. It's still not. I have no idea where to start looking for this person.
Yeah,
No.
it's all about having somewhere to start. Like I said, it's better to know what hay pile to look for the needle in than having to guess and look at tons and tons and tons, right?
Yep. And all
And
of
it's
this
probably
runs.
not and I was going to say, it may not be a bad idea in your kit to carry a compass.
Oh yeah,
A compass is only good if you know how to use it, though.
this is true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting that we use our gear and practice with it and know how to use it before actually needing it in an emergency situation?
Hey, don't read my notes. Don't read my notes for this. You don't get to steal those.
Oh, sorry. Holy.
So, Pierre, I noticed you have some notes in here. What do you have to say about this?
One of them was actually testing skills close to home. So if you live sorta not in town, but maybe close enough to a wilderness place that you want to go, figuring out how to get there without a GPS.
Wait a minute.
and
Is that a
then-
thing?
Yes.
Come on.
So, two things, right? Map and compass. Take a map of your area. Learn how to use a compass. Say, I want to go here. The map will give you what those coordinates are, and then see if they match up with the GPS. And if they're way off, don't be afraid to look for courses or people that can help you kind of fine tune those a little bit better. Somewhere close to home compared to driving an hour, saying, I'm going to go on a hunting trip. I can find my way around where I live, but putting yourself in a different area might be completely different. And, nobody wants to look for like the beginner course of map and compass and orientation. But in these scenarios, they might be pretty good. I mean, most times when I'll go for a crazy walk, I go hunting, or when I'm really far away from home, I go hunting. There's a bunch of hunting apps out that you can actually share with someone or have them sign in, and you can put, so if I go scouting, I can say, oh, I found something here, whether it was shedding, someone looking, or trees, scrapes, excrement, scat on the ground or whatever. So you can get a general idea of like, hey, this is the area I'm going to be around. And if someone else has that location, they can say, hey, this is the general area of where he was going hunting. If you listen to the cybersecurity episode and you don't have any apps, because they're all horrible ideas. Download one of them, and I mean, your location will be tracked anyways, right? So,
I'm
But yeah,
surprised you still
wrong.
have the internet.
yeah. So you know, but
Anybody that took that episode seriously is no longer watching us.
No.
yeah, right. They're waiting for Eric to translate into Morse code. Right, but there's like I know what's one of the apps it is Snapchat. You can actually share your location or have that option of share location, and like so if someone else has it, I can just hit that. It'll tell me where they are as long as they have cell reception.
It
Which
would
is
also
no
tell a whole
surprise.
bunch of other people, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you have friends, but it might be good for like 1-2 people to have it. But a bunch of stuff like that. So practicing those things close to home, where that if you do get lost, you're within a 1-hour radius of where you live, compared to like, well, I'm 10 hours from where I live, and I literally have no clue where I am. But yeah, not being afraid to go look for courses. I mean, there's a point where people realize that I don't know everything, and until that point, nobody wants to ask for help or look for anything, right?
Yep.
Look up YouTube videos. They'll at least point you in the right direction, and just test those skills out. Go find a forest not too far. Don't drive more than a half hour. Bring the tape with you. Practice your map, compass. Bring a GPS that'll give you, the actual coordinates, and then you can check that on the map and be like, am I way off? I'm like, I was only off by 20 feet. That's pretty good. Or 20 yards or 20 meters, right? Compared to I'm off by like 6 kilometers and I only walked 20 minutes. Like, how's that possible? So, yeah, doing that, practice, and letting people know, unfortunately, because you got to have
I think
friends,
we've all
apparently.
experienced where we've tried to look something up on Google Maps and found that the address is really off.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I had a delivery once that was, 2 kilometers off a road where it said that was where the address was. There was no roads around it, whatnot. That really pissed me off, but it's still the fact that technology is not perfect. And
Mhm.
I agree with Pierre there. If you think you're going to go to that bush to go hunting or something, drive over to it with your GPS and your map and compass and whatnot, and see what's going on and figure out if it's right or not.
Yep.
And then
Yeah,
tell
and-
somebody
and-
you went there, and then go have fun.
Yeah, and I
Also-
think Pierre said it too. Don't trust the GPS. I mean, how many times have you heard people, they're driving and their Garmin or whatever tells them to take a right turn, and they take a right turn, and next thing they know, they're on some logging road in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Or the train tracks.
Yep.
Yep.
Right, and also I've had it before with work that I'm trying to get to a customer's place to go fix equipment, and they've asked me, are you using Google
Yep.
Maps or Apple or iPhone, whatever, because the address they have to give you are different depending on which system,
Mhm.
right? So
I'm in that boat for my
also-
place.
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
right. So it's not. I don't know how common it is, but I've had it happen a few times where the guy's like, "What are you using?" I mean, what are you talking about? I'm using GPS. He's like, "Are you using Google or something else?" Because I have to give you 2 different addresses for some reason. I mean, they're not crazy off, but he's like, they will be way off depending on what you have. So if you get small things saying, "Hey, this is my GPS," or "This is the ping I dropped." Oh, actually, that's another thing. You can drop pins on maps. So if you find a spot, drop a pin. If you don't want to pay for the apps because they can be a little pricey, but in an area that has good cell reception, you can drop pins at a bunch of stuff, and then when you can go home, expand that, and then you kind of give yourself a grid. Share that with people, but saying which one you're using, because apparently GPSs are different, even though they're global. Is it? Yeah.
It's global, but not universal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Very good way of saying that.
and I don't understand that, and I'd like to know a little bit more, but I'm sure, I don't know, I'll probably have to turn notifications off and discount the internet thanks to cybersecurity.
Oh, I'm glad that episode freaked you out, Pierre.
What is? Yeah. It's
I'm
crazy.
sure it freaked a few people out, but
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's no shocker, right? Like
no.
I mean, it shouldn't be, but right. But it's just, yeah, it is.
Just
But,
spelled it out for everybody.
Yeah, you just connected the dots I already knew were there. Right? I just didn't have the number pattern to make the dinosaur.
I'm surprised you came back tonight. Yeah.
I just kind of one more note on flagging tape. If you're going to do that, put it kind of at eye level, hang it on a branch so that it's kind of visible, right? It's in the way, it's obnoxious so that you don't lose it in the bush. Also, if it's on one side of a tree or another, you might be able to see it from one direction but not the other. So it's another skill to practice while you're out doing things. It's another skill to practice, just so you can find your way back wherever you may find yourself.
So at that point, would you put it on both sides of the tree? Is what you're saying?
No, I'd put it on a branch that I could see from both directions.
Okay.
So
No, but what if somehow you turned out that you thought you were walking straight, but you went way left, and now you're at a spot where you can't see it on the branch because, like you're thinking walking a straight line.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm thinking like walking. You're
off.
following a trail, right? If I'm following a trail, I'm probably going in, not necessarily a straight line, but I'm going in a direction that I can reasonably see, and every 10, 20 or 30 paces, I'm going to turn back and look and make sure I can still see that thing. Right.
Okay.
And if I can't, then I'm going to backtrack to a place where I can and put another flag out.
Okay. You just have a lot of trust in general people.
Darius has got a good point there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Darius beat me to it, right? He said make sure it has a 6 or 8 inch tail. Oh, that's a different point.
The one at the bottom.
But the one at the bottom, I think, was the one that we were looking at. I was just going to say, like, I cut them about the, I snapped them off about the length of my forearm, right? So I'll hold it in my hand, bring it out to my elbow, and snap it, tie it so that it's got some length to it. And that I find is, it's good to catch in the breeze. It's good to move. It makes it more visible. The more visible it is, the more likely I am to see it on the way back.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
or somebody else to be able to
likely
follow
see
me.
it.
Yep. And I mean, if there are that many people around that they're going to take down my flagging tape, then I'm probably not in a situation where I need to be rescued, frankly, or where I need somebody to be able to find me specifically. Right, somebody will be able to direct them.
Darius has another good point in the live chat. The Alberta Hunter Education online has a free video course. It just covers the basics of map and compass work, and he says it's pretty good. So people that don't have some extra money kicking around to take an official in-person course or anything like that could check that out for just a free resource to get used to some orienteering.
Absolutely, it's a great point. There's a YouTube for everything, right?
Yep. Just make sure it's a reputable source.
Yep. Usually, when I learn something on YouTube, I try and make sure that 2 or 3 people are saying the same thing, and then I figure it's pretty close to accurate.
That's what I tell people. I'm like, watch more than one video, and if they're consistent, start there.
Yep. It's like asking for directions, right? If I'll never ask just one person for directions.
Fair enough.
I ask 2 or 3, and I wait and make sure that they're all giving me approximately the same thing.
Hold on, you ask for directions?
I haven't in a lot of years, but the rule still applies.
What is this asking for directions you speak of?
It's been a while since I've had to, but it's because I only go to the same 6 places.
Well, there you go. And everybody knows where you're going and when you're leaving and when you expect to get there, right?
Yep, exactly.
Well, then you're pretty predictable.
Yeah. And all my locations are on, so.
Oh. Buddy, do I have an episode for you?
Even if they weren't, I'm still in probably one of 6 places. So,
jeez. All right. Anybody on the panel have anything else to add to this evening's topic?
The only thing I can say from my previous employment is, and Alan's mentioned it, but it needs to be mentioned again and again and again and again. Once you've made contact with emergency services, or you've had some way for people to get your general location, hug that tree and don't move. I don't know how many times, we went out on or the people I worked for, went out on a search and went to that specific point, and the next comment was, well, they're not here. And then
Yep.
where do you go from there? They don't know where to go.
Yep.
So
That's a
And
great
frankly,
point.
by the time the police get to that location, they've probably destroyed all the traces that we could use to track that person. And that's not a dig against the police. That's just like, if by the time you decide to start tracking, it's usually too late to start tracking.
Yep. 100%.
And so it's that's why, once you get to that place, you've contacted somebody, somebody's coming to look for you, stay put. That is the number one takeaway. Staying still is the only smart thing to do, because if you know your way out, then don't bother calling for help, because then people are just going to come and try and find you, and you're going to end up part of your own search party, is what has happened before. But if once you know somebody's coming to look for you, stay still and make yourself visible and make yourself loud. Make a fire so that we can see the smoke during the day and the flame at night, right? All of those things.
Mhm.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we've covered up all the basics for tonight's topic. So we'll move into the podcast challenge. So for your challenge for this episode is get a pack together that you can carry with you when you do go out on whatever hike or canoe trip that you're going to go on, and get used to telling people where you're going, how you're going to get there, when you expect to be back, because people just don't tend to do that. So that is your challenge for this episode. Upcoming events is blank. Got nothing going on right now, so nothing for you there. But we do have a weather blurb from Jeff.
all right. So there was a pretty significant tornado outbreak Friday in the South U.S., the east side of Dallas and Texas over towards Oklahoma and Arkansas. Very reminiscent of December of last year, the tornado outbreak they had. Not quite as bad, but fairly significant. So far, only 2 people have been reported deceased, but there are still lots of people missing. There's lots of damage. A couple of small towns were basically wiped off the map. And just to show how quickly these things pop up, this wasn't even on the radar last Sunday when I did my blurb. There was no talk of it at all. It started gaining traction on Tuesday when people started noticing some changes in the atmosphere and that. And by Thursday, it was like, yep, this is coming and it's going to be bad. And it was bad. So, I know I keep harping on it, but pay attention to the weather around you. It can change from day to day. There is potential for a tropical storm to develop in the Atlantic, and it may very well target the east coast of Florida later this week or next weekend. There's some dispute about it, whether it may become a hurricane or not, but at least if nothing else, if it's a tropical storm, you're still into a whole bunch of rain and some fairly strong winds and a little bit of storm surge. So keep an eye on that. I put a link in for a Twitter for a guy I follow that's pretty good up on that kind of stuff. And winter has arrived in Western Canada, and it will be moving obviously east and going around. There's one of our chat members lives in Calgary, and he said right now it's minus 17 and they've got a foot of snow. So whether that will last or not doesn't matter. You need to be prepared. We've touched on it on other podcasts. Make sure your vehicles are ready. You've got your equipment in there. And so that's all I got for now.
All right. Well, let's move into some shout outs. See, we got a few on the list here.
Oh, I thought I was muted and then I wasn't, so I didn't start talking. Ottawa Search and Rescue Team, they're in the running for a contest. They'll get them a new vehicle, so I wish them the best of luck. Give them a quick Google, and I'm not sure if the voting has closed or not. If it hasn't, I would really appreciate if everyone could go vote for them. They're pretty awesome. And then the London Search and Rescue Team are holding their winter fundraising auction starting in the next couple of weeks. Again, if you throw a quick Google search in there. It's mostly run on Facebook, I believe, but you can check out some pretty cool donated items there and help out a couple of teams that come out and find you when you sit and hug a tree.
Awesome. Quick shout out to our new Patreon, Tyrell. Appreciate you supporting the show and helping us keep things running here. And
Go, Tyrell.
we've got an email, and it is probably the nerdiest email we have received for the podcast.
Just hearing the joy in Eric's
I
voice
know,
when he was
right?
talking about this, it was just unbelievable.
So it did come to the regular feedback at prepperpodcast.ca address as well, but it also landed in my WinLink inbox. So it came in via HF ham radio, which is just fantastic. So it reads, hey folks, I listened to you on the Overcast app in the Northeast US. I like to think of myself as a practical prepper using my outdoor skills and willingness to learn basic skills. About 15 years ago, an ice storm gave me a kick in the pants to get up my game. Having been a Boy Scout and now a leader for my son's troop, I take the Be Prepared motto to heart. I really enjoy the show, although I admit I sometimes need to look some things up to get the cultural meaning. Keep up the good work. 73 from Kevin. So appreciate the email. For those non-ham radio types, 73 is a code used in ham radio for just best wishes and or best regards. But yeah, appreciate the email, Kevin, and just fantastic that it came in via WinLink. Yeah, you made my night. All right. With that, I will bring episode number 183 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or of course your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It does help other people find us. You're muted, Alan.
I sure am. We do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube, unmuting moments and all. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. You can contact me directly at Alan, that's with one L, at prepperpodcast.ca.
And if you want, you can reach me at feedback at prepperpodcast.ca, or I am frequently on the Discord chat.
Brad, it's just mute night tonight, isn't it?
Oh, whoever's in the notes, I'm watching you as you're disappearing everything. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, they're not here, not even paying attention.
Ian, who's Ian?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Who is he? Anybody wants to reach out, bradcpp@gmail.com.
I am thankfully not muted. Off the wall customizing, TikTok, Instagram, bunch of stuff like that. I'm occasionally on Discord, not as much as I would like to. Or tomorrow night, you can get a sneaker peek on the other CPP Patriot podcast, where I'm less friendly and politically correct as tonight, where we talk about why I hate government.
All right. You can check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe.
You can keep learning. Hey, I wasn't muted.
Oh, look at that.